Hi friends, welcome to day 2 of the 10-day yoga challenge. Today we're going to be talking about the 8 limbs of yoga. For those of you who maybe are completely new to this concept, the 8 limbs are derived from the Yoga Sutras, and the Yoga Sutras were written by Patanjali, this Indian sage, and he compiled the Yoga Sutras into a text because historically before that a lot of the traditions were oral. The 8 limbs are the path of yoga that are laid out in the sutras. So the first limb, the first section of yoga are the yamas. And yamas are these guidelines for living peacefully with yourself and with others. And yamas are about things like honesty, kindness. Those are kind of the traits or virtues associated with the yamas. The second limb is the niyamas. The niyamas are more self-discipline, so it kind of builds on the idea of the yamas, these guidelines, but these are more like cleanliness, personal practices, etc. The third limb is asana, and this is what most people think of when they think of yoga. Asana is a seat or a posture, and so the postures that we go through in class when we go to a studio, that is what we're talking about when we say asana, the third limb of yoga. The fourth limb is pranayama, and this is your breath work. So prana is your life force. It's the energy carried by your breath, and yama means restraint, or there are a lot of definitions that I've seen, but I really like the one restraint or control. And it's this idea of controlling your breath, and it's a very beautiful practice. The fifth limb is pratyahara, and pratyahara is this idea of withdrawing from the senses and turning inward. The sixth limb is dharana, and this is concentration on a single point. The seventh limb is dhyana, and that is meditation. And there are a lot of different types of meditation, so a lot of times people say, oh, I just don't like meditating, it's not for me. And I get that because I have a hard time with it. It's something I have to be very disciplined about because otherwise I just won't do it. But I do find certain types of meditation are easier for me than other types, and I truly believe that meditation is not a one-size-fits-all. There's something for everyone out there, for sure. The eighth limb is samadhi, and this is enlightenment or oneness with the universe. It's this bliss that comes from working through all of the other limbs. It comes from the process of doing yoga, and theoretically some of us may never experience samadhi, some of us might get glimpses, but it's not a state that you just get there and you stay there. It's this treat that you get from the work over time. But those are the 8 limbs, and they're a wonderful thing to apply to your life, to show the expansiveness of yoga. And this is just Ashtanga, this is just the 8-limbed path. There is more to yoga than even this, but this is so much more vast than what a lot of us think about yoga before we really look into it. I know before I got into yoga, I was like, oh, it's fun and stretchy and we breathe and we're calm and it's great. But then I got into yoga teacher training and I was like, wow, this is so much more than just movement and breath. I mean, those are great things, but there's so much to it, and it is so beautiful.
Hi friends! If you have your blocks, go ahead and grab them and set them off to the side. Roll over to your hands and knees, bring your big toes to touch, send your hips back for a child's pose. Forehead to the mat, hands reaching forward. We'll be here for several breaths. We'll do a quick warm-up today and a few rounds of sun salutations. And then we'll actually be workshopping some of the poses that we'll often see in our yoga classes. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath here. Walk your hands over to the right side of the mat and get a stretch through the left side of your body. Bring your hands through center and then walk them to the left. Now walk your hands back to center. Begin to rise up for a tabletop position. Knees underneath your hips, hands under your shoulders. On your next inhale, drop your belly and gaze forward for cow pose, and then curve your spine for cat. Inhale to cow, heart comes forward. Exhale, really curve your spine, tuck your tailbone for cat. Keep moving through this at your own pace with your breath. Now come to a neutral spine and walk your hands a handprint forward, tuck your toes and find downward facing dog. Take a few breaths to pedal your feet out, bending one knee and then the other. And take notice of where your hands are. They should be about shoulder width distance apart. The eyes of your elbows are forward, and really press your chest back to your thighs, even if that means bending your knees a little bit. Inhale, roll forward to a plank pose. And your plank pose is the same length as down dog. So if you had to adjust your hands, then just keep that same hand length when you go back to downward facing dog. You can always drop your knees in plank pose for support. Exhale, send your hips back up to downward facing dog. Inhale your right leg up and back to a three-legged dog, and then step it forward between your hands. Now, this step through is a question that I get a lot from students. It's very difficult for some people. So grab your blocks and frame your front foot with your blocks, and then bring your hands to your blocks on the lowest setting, finding down dog with your hands on blocks. Inhale your right leg up and back, and step it forward between your hands again. It might have been a little bit easier this time. You can always use this variation. Drop your left knee to the mat. Send your arms up overhead. Find this low lunge. Hips are softening forward. Strong pushing into the right foot here. Begin to frame your front foot. Send your hips back, straightening out your right leg. And you can bend and straighten or just hold a forward fold here. Frame your front foot, tuck your left toes, and lift your left knee up off the mat. Step back to plank pose, and then option to drop your knees here, lower all the way down. Elbows hug into your ribs. Inhale, lift up to a baby cobra, squeezing your shoulder blades together. And then come through tabletop, tuck your toes, find downward facing dog. Inhale your left leg up and back, and step it forward between your hands. Grab your blocks, frame your front foot, bring your hands to your blocks and step back to down dog. Try it again. Left leg lifts, step it forward between your hands. Remove your blocks, drop your right knee to the mat. Arms will come up overhead for your low lunge. Keep your core engaged here, hardening up as if someone was about to punch your belly. Exhale, frame your front foot, and then walk yourself back, straightening and bending your left leg. Bend back into your left knee, tuck your back toes, and step your left foot back to meet your right for plank pose. Option to drop your knees to the ground here, lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes, inhale up to a baby cobra, lifting your heart up, shoulders pressed back. Exhale through your tabletop position. Tuck your toes, find downward facing dog. Look between your hands and begin to tiptoe your way to the front of your mat. And when you get there, hang out in a forward fold. You can grab opposite elbows, bend your knees, sway a little bit. Keep it soft. Inhale to a half lift, hands come to your shins. Exhale, fold, and then lift all the way up, arms up overhead, Ardha Hastasana. Bring your hands to heart center. We'll move through our sun salutations now. Inhale your arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive over. Bend your knees, plant your hands. Step your right foot back and then your left. Find downward facing dog. Roll forward to your plank pose. Option to drop your knees. Exhale, lower all the way down, hugging your elbows in. Untuck your toes, let your heart lift, cobra. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale your right leg up and back. Step it forward between your hands. And then step your left foot up to meet your right, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale your arms up overhead, high prayer. Exhale, swan dive right back over. Bend your knees, plant your hands. Step your left foot back and then your right, down dog. Roll forward to plank pose, Kumbhakasana, and then lower down as you exhale, dropping your knees if you take that variation. Let your heart lift, Bhujangasana. Exhale, lower, come through your table, tuck your toes, down dog. Left leg lifts left up and back. Step it forward between your hands. Step your right foot up to meet your left, half lift. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale your arms up overhead to your high prayer. Bring your prayer to heart center. We'll do another round. Arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive over, forward fold. Step your right foot back and then your left, down dog. Roll forward to plank pose. Engage your navel to spine, lower down. Inhale, lift your heart up for cobra. Exhale, lower, come through your tabletop, tuck your toes, down dog. Lift your right leg up and back. Exhale, step it forward between your hands. Step your left foot up to meet your right, half lift. Fold in. Inhale, arms up overhead. Hands to heart center. Inhale your arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive over, Uttanasana. Step your left foot back and then your right, down dog. Roll forward, Kumbhakasana. Option to drop your knees, navel to spine, lower down. Inhale to your cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your left leg up and back and then step it forward between your hands. Right foot meets your left at the top of the mat. Half lift, really lengthening as you inhale, and then raise your arms up overhead. Hands to heart center. One more round on each side. Arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive over. Step your right foot back and then your left. Roll forward to your plank pose. Option to drop your knees, lower down as you exhale. Hug your elbows in. Inhale to your cobra or your upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. Now look between your hands, lift to the balls of your feet, and tiptoe your way to the front of the mat. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, Ardha Hastasana, arms up high. Exhale, swan dive over. Left foot steps back and then your right, down dog. Roll forward to plank pose. Lower down as you exhale. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Up dog, knees are off the ground. Exhale, down dog. Now you can either tiptoe or hop your way to the top of the mat and half lift when you get there. Exhale, fold, arms up overhead to your high prayer. Bring your prayer to heart center. The first pose we'll be workshopping is Warrior One. From a standing position, step your left foot back. The sole of your foot is on the mat, and there's a deep bend in your right knee. Your left foot is pointing towards the top left corner of your mat, so it's at an angle. Traditionally, your heels are in line with each other here, but that doesn't work for everyone's hips. Your hips should be facing forward, and if you're struggling to keep your hips forward, heel-toe your right foot off to the right side. This will create more space for your hips and make it easier to rotate them forward. Engage your navel to spine and grow tall. Bring your arms up overhead. Your shoulders are stacking over your hips. One of the variations for Warrior One you might see in class is Winged Warrior. For this variation, let your arms come down by your side and then wing them behind you as if you have a cape. Begin to straighten out your right leg and flex your right toes up. Gaze up at the ceiling or the space where the ceiling meets the wall. Exhale, bend back into your right knee, arms will come up overhead. Another variation you might find in class is Devotional Warrior. For this variation, interlace your fingers behind your lower back, let your heart lift, and then fold forward. Your right shoulder will come to the top of your right thigh, and you can drop your head towards the earth. Arms will come back up overhead. Find your Warrior One. From Warrior One, bring your hands to your hips and step your left foot up to meet your right at the top of the mat, coming back to Tadasana. Now let's do the other side. Hug your right knee into your chest and step it behind you. Come to the sole of your right foot with your right toes pointing to the top right corner of your mat. Check to see if your heels are in line. If you need more space to turn your hips forward, heel-toe your left foot off to the left side. Push into both feet equally here. Engage your navel to spine and grow tall. Winged Warrior. Wing your arms behind you. Flex your left toes up as you straighten your left leg. Come back to Warrior One. Interlace your fingers behind your lower back. Let your heart lift and fold forward. Your left shoulder comes to your left thigh, dropping your head down. Bring your arms back up overhead to Warrior One. Bring your hands to your hips and step back to the front of your mat for Tadasana. The next pose we'll do is Warrior Two. Step your feet about 3 feet apart with your feet parallel facing the side of your mat. Pivot your right toes to the right side and bend your right knee. Your right knee is over your right ankle. Stack your shoulders over your hips and bring your arms to a wide T. Your back foot is parallel to the back of the mat. A variation you might see in class is Peaceful Warrior. Flip your right palm up and reach up and back, leaning back into the pose. Your left hand can come to your left thigh or your left calf. Come back to your Warrior Two. Straighten your right leg and once again parallel your feet. We'll move into the other side. With your feet about 3 feet apart, pivot your left toes to the left side of the mat. Bend your left knee over left ankle. Your right foot is parallel to the back of the mat. Stack your shoulders over your hips, arms come to a wide T, palms facing the earth. Make sure that your left knee is not going past your left ankle. Let's try Peaceful Warrior. Flip your left palm up, reach up and back for Peaceful Warrior. Right hand to your right leg. Exhale back to your Warrior Two. Arms are wide. Straighten your left leg and parallel your feet. Triangle pose next. For triangle pose, pivot your right toes to the right side, bring your arms wide, and keep both legs straight. Reach your right fingertips as far forward as you can and hinge sideways. You can bring your right hand to a block or your shin, and your left fingertips reach up to the ceiling. You're hinging sideways, not folding forward here. So make sure that your left shoulder is stacked over your right. Lift back up, parallel your feet, and try it on the other side. Arms come wide, pivot your left toes to the side, hinge to the left, and fold sideways. Again, you can bring your left hand to a block, or you can rest it on your shin or the mat, depending on where it lands. Make sure you're stacking your joints here, so if you have to lift up out of the pose a little bit to achieve that, that's totally fine. Lift back up and parallel your feet. Half Moon or Ardha Chandrasana is next. You'll want your blocks for this one, so put your block about a foot in front of your right foot and a little bit to the right side. Left hand will come to your left hip, and then your right fingertips reach for your block. Shift your weight into your right leg and begin to lift your left leg up off the mat. It's okay if you don't get very far the first few times. It'll take a little bit of time to build this balance. Having the block really helps, and once you get comfortable there, play with lifting your hands. Let's try it on the left. Pivot your left toes to the left side. Put your block about a foot in front of your left foot and a little bit to the left side. Shift your weight into your left foot and reach for your block. Right hand is on your right hip, and then maybe you send your right fingertips up to the sky. Play with your balance here, and then step back, parallel your feet. The next pose we'll do is Crescent Lunge. Hug your left knee in and step it back. You're on the ball of the foot this time, which is different than our Warrior One. This is more of a standard pose. You might see this in most fitness classes. Stack your shoulders over your hips, engage your navel to spine, and reach your arms up overhead, palms facing each other. You can modify this by dropping your left knee to the mat. We'll play with some variations. Bring your hands to heart center, coming to a prayer, and then twist to your right side. Bring your left elbow to the outside of your right thigh. You can also open up your arms, or bring your left palm to the mat, right fingertips reach up. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee up off the mat, and we'll try this again. Bring your hands to prayer, twist to your right side. Left elbow to the outside of your right thigh. Really push your palms together for support. And then try the other variation. Left hand comes to the mat or a block, right fingertips reach up. Bring both hands back up and then step back up to Tadasana. Switch to the other side. Step your right foot back, bending into your left knee. You're on the ball of your right foot. Grow tall through your spine, really engaging your navel to spine here. Drop your right knee to the mat. Bring your hands to prayer. Twist to your left. Bring your right elbow to the outside of your left thigh and gaze over your left shoulder. Now try the open twist. Right hand comes to the mat or a block. Left fingertips reach up. Now frame your foot. Tuck your back toes, lift your right knee up off the mat, and come back to your Crescent Lunge. We'll try this again. Bring your hands to prayer, twist to your left, right elbow to the outside of your left thigh. And then bring your right hand to the mat or a block, left fingertips reach up. Come back to your Crescent Lunge and step your right foot up to meet your left. Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. Hug your left knee in and kick it back at hip height. Your hands can come to blocks here for support, or you can play with balance. It's really important to keep your back foot flexed down to the mat here. You're not going as high as possible. Instead, try to keep it parallel to the ground. Step back up to your Tadasana and try it on the other side. Send your right foot behind you, flexing your toes down to the mat. Your hips are neutral here, and your inner thigh is reaching up to the sky. Play with your balance, maybe bringing your hands to prayer or winging them beside you. And then step back up to Tadasana. Standing split. This pose is really more about the forward fold, but it does look similar to our Warrior 3. So fold forward, keeping your hands either on blocks or the mat, and then send your left leg up behind you. Keep the same internal rotation that you had for Warrior 3, and try to really lengthen your leg. You can even keep your foot on the mat. It doesn't have to go very high. Do the same thing with the other leg. Send it behind you, reaching your inner thigh up and extending it. And then come back to standing. Come to your tabletop position. Send your hips back, take a child's pose. Take a few breaths here. Use any of these modifications that we've talked about today in classes going forward. great way to honor your body in yoga is to do the version that is best for you and feels best in your body. Inhale up to a tabletop position and then come to a seat. Send your right leg off to the side, bring the sole of your left foot to your right inner thigh, turn to your right leg and fold forward for Chandrasana. Inhale, come up to a tall spine. Plant your left hand behind you, push into your left hand and your left shin, and find a stargazer by lifting your hips up. When you're ready, sit back down and switch sides. Left leg comes long, sole of your right foot to your left inner thigh. Turn to your left and fold. Inhale back up, push into your right hand and your right shin, stargazer, lift your hips up. Come back down when you're ready, come to a seat and send your legs straight out in front of you for Uttanasana. Inhale your arms up overhead and fold straight forward. Inhale, come up slowly, and then lay all the way down on your mat. We'll move into Shavasana next, so take this time to fully relax, close your eyes, let your limbs be heavy on your mat, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out of it. Begin to deepen your breath here. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Bring some awareness back into your body. Reach your fingers up overhead. Take a nice long stretch. When you're ready, step your feet to the mat one at a time. Roll to one side and curl up into a fetal position. Push your way up to a seat and come to Sukhasana. Inhale your arms up overhead and join me for Om. Om. Thank you so much.